For those of you who are new to our organization, the Federalist Society for Law and Public Policy Studies is a group of conservatives and libertarians interested in the current state of the legal order and dedicated to its reformation. It is founded on the principles that the state exists to preserve freedom, that the separation of governmental powers is central to our Constitution, and that it is emphatically the province and duty of the judiciary to say what the law is, not what it should be. The Society seeks both to promote an awareness of these principles and to further their application through its activities. Here we go. A regular guest on Fox News and a popular campus speaker, Kate Obenshain, is an articulate, fearless defender of conservative principles. She inspires audiences with her passionate, experienced insights, never hesitating to speak her mind. As I mentioned earlier, she is the author of Divider-in-Chief, The Fraud of Hope and Change, which was released in the fall of 2012. As chairman of the Virginia GOP from 2003 to 2006, Kate garnered national attention when she led the charge against tax increases and the expanding role of government at the state and national levels, earning her the designation from the Atlanta Journal-Constitution as one of the rising stars in the GOP. Kate's work is featured in the book, Great American Conservative Women. Encouraging young people to become philosophically knowledgeable and active in public policy issues is a driving passion for Kate. In 2003, she founded and is chairman of a public policy leadership training program for women in Virginia. Kate formerly served as vice president of Young America's Foundation, the nation's premier campus conservative organization. While there, Kate served as a member of the board of directors, director of program development, and director of lectures, developing the largest conservative lecture program in the nation. Kate has been speaking on college campuses for 18 years. Kate speaks, she started when she was 12, I believe. Kate speaks across the nation on a wide variety of issues, including life, national security, education, economic policy, political correctness on campus, and the changing role of women in public policy. Kate served as Senator George Allen's chief of staff and as his chief education and health policy advisor when he was Virginia's governor. From 1995 to 2000, she served as an appointee of Governors Allen and Gilmore on the State Council of Higher Education for Virginia, implementing both governors' vision for budgetary reform and programmatic accountability. A Virginia native, Kate is a graduate of the University of Virginia, where she was editor of the campus conservative newspaper, The Virginia Advocate. Kate is now a resident of Winchester, Virginia, where she lives with her 4 children. I present to you Kate Obenshain.
Must have switched it off before he handed it to you.
Oh.
That is a tricky thing to do. Okay, perfect. Hello.
No?
I really don't need it.
No.
Is it okay?
Yeah, do
I'm
it.
going to fall anyway when I move, so. Okay, can you hear me back there?
Yes.
I'm so glad to be here with you all. Oh my gosh, this is very tall, but that's okay. We'll make it work.
You want us to adjust?
Oh yeah, if you can make it a little shorter, that's great. When I got here a little while ago, yes, perfect. I was so tired. It's been a long day. I was speaking at the New York Law School earlier today, and then I was on O'Reilly's show, which will be seen while I'm talking to you all, so just pretend that you don't know that it's not live. And I was just tired, but I got here, and you all are just full of energy. I love talking to you all, and you college students, and you folks, and y'all are really fired up. I know that it's a lot of conservatives right now, and me included. We're tired, and it's been a rough year.
Yes.
It really has. I mean, some of us weren't too enthusiastic about the situation that we found ourselves in, campaigning for a candidate maybe we didn't love, But we did it anyway because we knew that it was so much better than the alternative. And then, frankly, a lot of us probably weren't surprised by the outcome. Disappointed, deeply disappointed, but not overly surprised. So it's depressing when for the past 2 election cycles we have had to support perhaps a candidate we weren't as enthusiastic about. And what I really want to talk to you about today, the topic on which I was asked to speak is about the left's war on women. Because, you know, we Republicans, conservatives, hate women. That's really the mantra. We despise them. We conservatives, we hate women. It's an amazing thing that has happened, but apparently we do. So I want to talk a lot about that, but it's in the broader context. I could have really picked a lot of different areas to talk about. We could have talked about class warfare that has happened, or how we conservatives hate illegal immigrants. In case you didn't know, we hate them. How we hate working class Americans. How we hate black people. How we hate anybody. I'm talking tongue in cheek here, but this is why I wrote the book, The Divider in Chief. Because what this president did as soon as he was elected, that whole hope and change thing, poof, it was gone almost immediately, and he began doing what he does best, his community organizer shtick. Now look, it was his one characteristic for which he was elected, truly. It was his one successful quality. He was a master agitator when he was back in Chicago. That's what his fellow community organizers called him. He was the best. He did it really well. It was every time you say Saul Alinsky as a conservative, people assume you're a crazy person. But we have to talk about the fact that he really did take the rules for radicals and implemented them perfectly, brilliantly. What he would do, he would go into a community and get the members of that community fired up, despising either an organization or an individual. Just stir that pot and get them into a frenzy of angst and anger and hostility. And while they were in their frenzy, he would just drive through whatever policy initiative he was going for. They didn't care. All they knew was that anybody who opposed it hated them. They hated them. So they just, dismissed. It was no longer a debate based on ideology, differing ideas of 2 sets of decent human beings. Now that's what we do in America. We duke it out. That's what our founding fathers did. It was not kumbaya. It was opposing ideas of what our country should look like. And they fought it out, and because they were free to express their opinions and to state what they believed, we achieved arguably what I would consider the greatest country on the face of the earth, known until this point of history. But now Obama has changed that entire landscape. He is meticulously going about changing it from a culture where we have that free and open exchange of ideas. You on college campuses know this better than anybody because it's a lockdown. You are not allowed to disagree with the political orthodoxy, the leftist orthodoxy, or you are racist, sexist, homophobic, whatever. It is ingrained, and that's what Obama wants to see at the national level. What he's doing is pitting Americans one against another. So for instance, when it comes to class warfare, if you dare to disagree with raising taxes on quote-unquote the millionaires and billionaires, give me a break. The mega wealthy is another term they've been using for people making $100,000 and up. But they're millionaires and billionaires. If you dare to disagree based on some economic philosophy that maybe it's going to shut down the economy, if you dare to disagree, then you despise working class, middle class Americans. We could get into the whole segmenting Americans based on economic class, which we don't do in this country. That's why people came here, because we're a fluid society and you can achieve great success through ingenuity and ambition. But that's a subject for another day. So if you disagree with Obama's economic policies, you actually despise working class Americans. You actually care more about millionaires and billionaires than children with autism and Down syndrome. That is a favorite line that the White House threw out again and again. Can you believe that? Because we conservatives believe that taxes should be low because then revenue increases. We saw it under President Reagan. Tax increase, you college kids remember this. You need to use this argument. Taxes were at 70% for that highest income tax bracket. Reagan brought it down to 28%. 28%, can you believe that, by the way, with the Democrat Congress, brought it down to 28%. What happened to income for that tax bracket by the time he left office? Bringing it from 70 to 28%, doubled. Income to the revenue to the federal government doubled. We have reason for objecting to taxes being increased. But instead of arguing that philosophical point, Obama villainizes us, demonizes our very character. And so he nullifies our opinion. He shuts us out of the debate. That is the difference. That is completely contradictory to the notion of a Republican form of government, where you do argue and you come up with the best ideas. And that is exactly what he's doing when it comes to this ridiculous notion of a war on women that supposedly Republicans have launched. It's so that whenever John Boehner has the audacity to talk about an issue that might impact women, he shuts them down by saying, Obama shuts them down and says, aha, I told you, they hate women. They don't care about women. They want to take away women's health care choices. Again, and so he's created this mantra. Now, why did he find the need to do this? Well, it's just his MO for one thing. He really started in the very beginning. But it kicked into overdrive after those midterm elections. Because remember what happened during the first 2 years of Obama's tenure, if you can take yourself back to those scary days. When you remember the stimulus, the shovel-ready jobs, again, QE1, QE2, pouring trillions of dollars into the economy, and unemployment is still sky high. And of course, Obamacare was literally rammed down our throats. Then the Tea Party rose up, and for the first time since 1982, women voted for Republicans in the majority. And the Democrats were shocked. They couldn't believe that they had gone that far off their game and taken their eye off the ball of women. And you know what, they're right. If they lose women, they lose that lock grip. That's why they come after us so ferociously. Conservative women, because we are a huge threat to them. So after those midterm elections, it kicked into overdrive, and all of a sudden we started hearing about the Republican war on women. It was truly a stunning concept, and it was thrown out there just boldly. And we had all this sort of commentary from the left. I mean, the quotes were amazing. The DCCC talked about how, quote, House Republicans have launched an all-out war on women, raging an unrelenting war on women. Congresswoman Carolyn Maloney said women's health, I knew I was going to get, women's health needs are under attack. Our health needs are actually under attack by an increasingly conservative Republican Party. Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee, who is my personal favorite, the gift that keeps on giving, said, quote, I think the next act of Republicans will be dragging women out of patient rooms into the streets and screaming over their bodies as they get dragged out of getting access to women's health care. This is how much we hate women. We will drag them out into the streets and scream over their bodies. Nobody corrected her. Nobody defended Republicans. You had Secretary Sebelius, part of the Obama administration, saying that Republicans want to roll back the last 50 years in progress women have made in comprehensive health care in America. We've come a long way in women's health care over the last few decades, but we are in a war. In a war. Here in America, we're in a war. The last mailing I received, I don't know why I'm on the Democrat mailing list, but I got a Democrat Party of Virginia mailing. The very last one was Romney and Ryan are, and in big bold red letters in case you didn't get it, shocking and dangerous when it comes to women's health. There's something really wrong with that. Shocking and dangerous. Okay, anybody can agree that's an exaggeration. We're not even a threat to women's health, but we are shocking and dangerous when it comes to women's health. I was absolutely stunned by that. But was it effective? Was all of that? It was. It was big time effective, and we saw it in the election results where there was an 11-point gender gap. It was stunning that yet again there was this huge gender gap. Now, looking back, it wasn't just the rhetoric, it was the Republican response to the HHS mandate. Remember the mandate, of course, that would compel a business to provide birth control to women, regardless of their religious beliefs. Completely a violation, you lawyers know this, violation of our right to freedom of religion. And the minute John Boehner and Mitch McConnell, and forgive me, by the way, I'm not attacking men, I'm attacking strategy here, okay? And a group of elderly white clergymen, just so you're straight on that, okay? A group of elderly white clergymen came out and gave the defense of the Republican position. Probably wasn't the most effective strategy. And then the Democrats just said, aha! They want to take away your right to birth control. They want to completely take away your right to birth control. But by then it became Mitt Romney as opposed to birth control. Just pure and simple, that's a fact, hates birth control. I think that we sort of played into the hand with that. Obviously, if you're going to have an argument about this, obviously it was a violation of freedom of religion. And actually that argument resonated with women, but it was put out there in such a flawed manner that women never heard it. All they heard was the cacophony on the left screaming that this was proof that Republicans wanted to take away women's health care options. Then, of course, we had Todd Akin, I know, and Richard Murdoch, right. But keep in mind that when Todd Akin made his comments about rape and women's psychological ability to prevent pregnancies, an amazing comment, Republicans resoundingly rejected it, trashed him, asked him to get out of the race. Romney himself said, get out of the race. Got to get out of the race. And yet, what did the Democrats do? Immediately, they started running ads saying Todd Akin and Mitt Romney. Mitt Romney agrees with Todd Akin. I just saw last night a clip from an anchor, a female anchor explaining what Todd Akin said, and then she said, this anchor said, and guess what? The Republican Party platform supports Todd Akin. Somewhat. Long pause and then somewhat. So basically throwing it out there that we agree that women can psychologically keep themselves from becoming pregnant after a rape. It was an amazing thing. Then, of course, Richard Murdoch saying it was God's will. That was bad. It was absolutely, but it shouldn't have been the end of the world. What it did was it played into the Democrats' hand, and they just took it and they ran with it with no integrity, no restraint, no concern for the fact or reality. It was their chance to drive the nail into the coffin of Republicans on the war on women, and that's what they did shamelessly. Now, Mitt Romney, God bless him, he pushed, bless his heart, that's what we say in Virginia, bless his heart, he pushed back. Remember that first debate, which was awesome?
Yeah.
Yeah, that one moment, we're like, maybe, and he just hammered Obama, but he was fact-oriented. He was loaded for bear. There was no character assassination. He explained the conservative position on practically every issue unabashedly. And after that debate, the gender gap disappeared. It was gone, literally overnight. That was the model. Of course, Obama didn't show up. That was a blessing as well. I mean, literally just wasn't there. It was the empty chair, basically. But the next debate, it was Romney was the empty chair. Nothing. He was timid and timorous and could not criticize Barack Obama. There was so much on which to criticize Barack Obama. There was nothing not to criticize him. But it was as though he didn't want to. He wanted to agree with him, reach out and embrace, which, is again and again the Republican strategy, which never works. And if you're not deeply committed to a core set of principles, it's really hard to go out and fight day after day after day instinctively for those principles. And so he wasn't at all able to do it. So their tactics absolutely worked. Now, if I had been the spin meister at the time, or controlling the conservative message, when this war on women thing started, I would have said, bring it on. We can win this because Republicans, conservatives have been standing up and championing women. You know, we do it differently. We don't pigeonhole people. We don't rip them apart. We don't do identity politics. But our philosophy and our policies actually produce prosperity for everyone, particularly for women. But what I would have suggested, and what I suggest we do now, is to point out how incredibly destructive Obama's policies have been towards women. Now, Romney tried it a couple times, but really half-heartedly. The fact that we were experiencing the highest poverty rate for women in 17 years. That is a stunning number. Grocery prices going through the roof, negatively impacting, in particular, single moms who are taking care of their kids. Of women who led households, were the single moms of households, 40% of them were living below the poverty line. 40%, I'm a single mom. 40% of moms like me are living below the poverty line under Barack Obama. That is not acceptable in the United States of America. And that should have been what Romney was out there saying again and again and again. His economic policies are persecuting you. They are, I think he said what they're disappointing. He said his economic policies are disappointing. Disappointing? For 40% of American women who are leading households living below the poverty line. No, that's not disappointing. That is not acceptable in this country. The number of women in April 2012, the number of women not in the workforce hit an all-time high. Women were not getting jobs back as quickly as men, the jobs that had been lost during the recession, at the height of the recession. And now, in January, for the first time in 6 years, the unemployment rate for women surpassed that of men. I never heard that. I saw it yesterday. And I can't, it was this tiny little piece in the New York Times, of course. Tiny little piece, but I don't recall hearing our congressional leaders trumpeting that point, saying women are suffering under the economic policies of this administration, and of course, we should have been out there. I also would have highlighted the fact that Obama was taking women, for fools. He was absolute, and they fell for it again and again, and I thought, no way women are going to fall for this. I thought I would have pointed out all the condescension from the Obama team. The life of Julia? Do you all remember the life of Julia? It was not, by the way, the life of Bob. It was the life of Julia, pointing out that women needed that beneficent hand of government reaching down, by the way, down to them in order for them to have a prosperous life. That's the best we can do, by the way. For government from cradle to grave, and it charted this woman's life. No men, by the way. She did have a baby, but there was no man in that whatsoever. I thought that was a disgustingly offensive way to portray women. Stephanie Cutter, one of Obama's chief advisors, said women aren't concerned about what's happened over the last 4 years. They don't care. Really, her point was they care only about birth control and unlimited access to abortion. That's all women care about. As they're screaming that that we're trying to take it away, trying to take everything away about women's health care. Okay, this part I hate to even say in mixed company, but I hate to say myself. But anyway, we're going to, because we need to be talking about every condescension that the Democrats are engaged in. On the Obama website, did you hear about that cartoon that was up there? It was a week before the election. And this is as the frenzy is in complete overdrive, and they're trying to freak us out. They had this cartoon on his website that said, "Vote like your lady parts depend on it." Just completely diminishing women into their body parts. I loved what Dana Lesh said. Dana Lesh is a great talk radio host. She's like fearless. She tweeted back out, "I'm going to vote like one of my lady parts depends on it. We conservatives call it a brain." We should have had more of that. That binders attack. Oh my gosh. Were you stunned when they started talking about that right afterward? I could not believe it, and that's when I thought, they've overplayed their hand. No way. In fact, they've exposed that they're empty, that they've got nothing. If they're going to say that Mitt Romney, reaching out, trying to find more qualified women is a problem. By the way, Mitt Romney should have said that night, look, at one point in my administration, when I was governor, I had more women serving in my cabinet than any other governor in the United States of America. He never said that. He never said that. He should have talked about his mom running for office and what that was like. What an incredibly foreign, because he traveled with his mother. Did you know that? He traveled all over the country with his mom, and he watched what it was like for a woman to run for office and try to take care of her home and be a wife, be a mother. He had incredible experience. His wife's experience raising their children and fighting and championing over MS. Never. There was none of that. We've got to personalize that we understand women and that we care about women and that we champion women. But you never saw Mitt Romney doing that. And frankly, it's not just Mitt Romney. I don't mean to be trashing Mitt Romney. You don't see Republicans doing it, and it's because we don't think that way. We think a good idea is a good idea, and let's just get out there and champion it. But we are being destroyed. We are being ripped to shreds because we don't fight that way. But this is a scurrilous attack that is not based on ideas, and we need to reformulate how we're going to be able to take this on. Now, the other thing I would have done, and I would keep doing, is pointing out the left's hypocrisy when it comes to saying that Republicans attack women, that Republicans are insensitive to women, and that they put women down. There is a long list, and I only have this much of it because I can't go on all night. But I would have pointed out the steady attacks against Ann Romney. Ann Romney, loveliness embodied. You know, just lovely. You can't imagine a lovelier first lady. But when Hillary Rosen, an advisor to Obama, said that she'd never worked a day in her life, that should have been everywhere. Every single mother would have voted again. Well, they would at least would have raised their hackles. Juan Williams said that Ann Romney looked like a corporate wife. It's hard for me to believe that she's ever struggled in her life. The New York Times called her a diva. Called her performance, her speech at the Republican National Convention, a diva performance. Unbelievable. Completely dismissing her. The week of the Democrat National Convention, the chairman of the South Carolina Democrats, Dick Harpootlian, I love that name, Dick Harpootlian, compared South Carolina Governor Nikki Haley to Eva Braun. And there was hardly the blink of an eye. They were in South Carolina, and the entire press corps was there. Didn't bother them at all to compare the sitting governor to Hitler's mistress. That's lovely. Then the Massachusetts Democratic Party chair criticized Scott Brown. Now look, this is not stuff that I would have an emotional conniption fit about on a normal day. But look at what they're attacking us over. We have got to point out what they're doing. So the Massachusetts Democrat Party chair criticized Scott Brown for trying to be a, quote, honorary girl for folding laundry in an ad. Okay, feminists should have gone nuts over that. I mean, I don't care. I fold laundry, but still. Bill Maher, nothing was, I know. But nothing, that $1 million that he gave Obama, never gave it back, never even thought about giving it back, even though he called Sarah Palin the C word. That's only one of many, many things that he's done. Actually, I just found this out again yesterday as well. I was obviously doing some research, and 2009, did you know that Alan Grayson, I know, right, but Alan Grayson called a female advisor to Ben Bernanke a whore? And do you know what happened the next day?
Nothing.
Right, Obama went to a fundraiser for him, and he said, you're our buddy. You are our to help him out. This guy never backs down from a fight. One day after calling this woman a whore. Sandra Fluke? Do you remember that? Okay, Alan Grayson calls a woman a whore, and the next day Obama goes and raises money for him. And you hear nary a peep, of course from the media, but also not from our side. You didn't hear anything. David Letterman, of course, talking about A-Rod raping, which it was, statutory rape, 14, his daughter, that was really a great punchline, said Bachmann is mentally retarded. Jimmy Fallon introducing Michelle Bachmann with that disgusting, nasty song. And then Obama booked himself on the Jimmy Fallon show the next week. There's a weird, very strange, I won't get into conspiracy theories here, but there's a weird pattern that goes on with Obama. Ooh, he trashed a woman, I'll go help him out, whatever. David Axelrod, I'm just saying. David Axelrod, remember Carrie Prejean? Prejean, I don't know how to say her name, from California, the beauty queen. She won Miss, or did she win Miss California? Or she second, she was runner-up because she gave her genuine Christian opinion about gay marriage, and David Axelrod called her a dog for that position. I never knew that. So that was one of the other things that I found. I never knew that. Never knew that at all. Then I would also have pointed out, which I found out after the election, I don't think I knew about it before the election, about the Obama White House. Oh my gosh, there's so much about the, actually I knew about, I didn't know about the disparity in pay before the election, but I did know that it is generally considered to be the boys' club, and that Anita Dunn, who was one of Obama's closest advisors, said it resembled more a frat house, and that his chair of the Council of Economic Advisors, Christina Romer, said she, quote, felt like a piece of meat whenever she went to the White House. This is Barack Obama's White House. We didn't hear any of this. There was a New York Times article about the atmosphere in the Obama White House, which was shocking. It must have been really bad. And there was this article, and so finally Obama realized he had to do something. For one thing, he invited the only woman I think that's ever been invited to a foursome to play golf with him. That was one time. Who cares, right? But still, it was the point that he doesn't include women in anything. So he brought together his White House women staffers for a dinner. And because there were so many concerns and complaints. One of them had complained to him about Rahm Emanuel. Shocking that he is a male chauvinist pig, but he is, and everybody knew that, and a woman complained to the president, and the president looked at her and said, I really need Rahm. That's how he handled it. So then he brings all the women together, and they have a dinner to discuss their concerns about the frat house atmosphere. Obama sits down, looks at his watch, and says, are there really concerns here I need to know about? Pretty much shut that meeting down. Deep, genuine concern over the plight of women in the White House. Did you see the picture on December 29th of this year of Obama's top advisors? There was a picture of Obama having a meeting with his top advisors. It was in the New York Times. 10 of them were standing there right in front of him. All men. I think 9 out of 10 were white men. And so actually, I think the New York Times even made a scene about it. The next day, there was this carefully staged picture with women, every other person. I mean, it couldn't have been any more staged. Throwing that out there. Women in the Obama White House make 18% less than the men. In agency after agency, there are more men than women. At the Department of Justice, Department of Veterans Affairs, and the Department of Energy, male appointees outnumber women 2 to 1.
Needs Romney's binders.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think he absolutely does. So my point here is not that, these things are so horrible in and of themselves, although a lot of them are horrible. You shouldn't feel like a piece of meat in today's society, in any workplace environment. Women just shouldn't have to deal with that. They shouldn't have to deal with that sort of, but to think that it's the experience that in our White House is not reminiscent of Bill Clinton's days, if I do say so. We've been given Representative Joe Salazar. Right. But he's going to get a pass on this, like Republicans never do. Joe Salazar is a state representative in Colorado. And on Friday, he was giving a floor speech about why students on college campuses, particularly women, should not be allowed to have concealed carry. That's a big debate and discussion right now because of campuses are currently safe zones, or some of them are, and so they're open for predators, basically. So there's this discussion about whether packing heat would help protect women, particularly from rape, there's a statistic out, I don't know if I believe it, but 1 out of every 4 women on college campuses has experienced some sort of sexual attack. It's not all rape, but some sort of an attack from a man. So there is reason to be concerned, obviously, about women on college campuses. I blame the feminist movement personally, but that's another speech for another day. Okay, so Salazar stood there giving a speech and said, I can explain that, by the way, if anybody wants me to have questions and answers. Salazar said, it's why we have call boxes. It's why we have safe zones. It's why we have the whistles. That would be a big help. Because you don't know who you're going to be shooting at. And you don't know if you feel like you're going to be raped, or if you feel like someone has been following you around, or if you feel like you're in trouble when you may actually not be. That you pop out that gun and you pop around at someone. So that's what Joe Salazar said about women and their ability to rationally discern whether they were in danger. He basically said they can't. That they are irrational creatures. And of course, I think 3 or 4 days later, he came out and issued a very forceful apology and said he never meant to be offensive, and he has daughters and son and a wife, and he would never, ever. And so some Republicans who had come out and attacked him, they backed up and they said, oh, okay, that's all right, don't worry about it, it's okay. And of course he gets a total pass from the left. Jezebel is this bizarre website, but they have readership. The day after the election, to give you an example, Jezebel went after Todd Aiken and Murdoch like nobody's business. Gave them no mercy whatsoever. The day after the election, their headline was, Team Rape Loses Big. That was their, I know. Okay, so after the little Salazar situation, consistency would demand that they would have a problem with the suggestion that women are irrational creatures and can't handle concealed weapons permit. But their caption around the video was, sometimes even Democrats say stupid things about rape. And then after the video it said, oi, exclamation. Total, complete pass. My point here is that Republicans have to reevaluate, not just on the war on women, but we have to reevaluate our strategy, because we are not dealing with that genuine trust, that free and open exchange of ideas. Let's argue ideology. Let's argue whether that HHS mandate is actually a violation of our constitutional rights, or if it's not. There may be arguments on that side. I don't actually know what they are because I haven't heard any. Let's argue about whether having women on the front lines of our military will help our military. I haven't heard that argument either. I've only heard if you oppose it, then you don't care about equal rights for women. You want to deny women their equal rights. No rational argument about the benefits of some of these policies. So what I'm saying is, if we sit back like we did during this past election, and we give them a constant pass every time they say something offensive, we create a vacuum. And the Democrats will gleefully fill that vacuum. If we're not going to get that out there and articulate compellingly why we are the movement or the party for women, they will explain why we are not. And it's not rational. It is complete demonization of very good human beings. But it's all in an effort to completely shut them out of the debate. Now, I think we can do this. I think it is very basic stuff. We have to go against our nature, though, of every time Salazar or somebody like him says something stupid. Our nature as conservatives is to realize that we are all human beings and that we say stupid things on occasion, and we believe in grace and mercy. So it is our instinct to say, it's okay, don't worry about it, don't do it again, don't do it again. Oh my gosh, Democrats just run away with that stuff, and we will never see the end of it. We have to point out the hypocrisy and not let it go. We have to some extent, I'm not saying make stuff up about them. I am saying we have to be consistent. What they do is they literally make stuff up. And I'll give you one example of that, and that is, not Eva Braun, but Nikki Haley. When she ran for governor of South Carolina, this is their tactic. She was accused by this blogger from his, if you saw pictures of this guy, he was from his grandmother's basement, came up for the day, and accused Nikki Haley of having an affair with him. Truly, it was unbelievable. And I mean, beyond the realm of imagination. But every major news outlet picked that up and they ran with it, destroying this good woman's reputation. As a woman, I find that incredibly offensive. But destroying it, and you know what? Nikki Haley came out and said, one bit of proof. You give me one scintilla of evidence, an email, a receipt, anything that would suggest, that would back this accusation up, and I will get out of the race immediately. Never. Nothing came forward. And yet, even after that there was a paragraph in every single newspaper article about that race. Nikki Haley has been accused of having an affair with one of her former staffers who's a blogger, blah, blah, blah. Every single article was that damning paragraph. Thank heavens she was able to defeat her opponent anyway, but that is what they do. They did it to Sarah Palin, they do it to Michelle Bachmann, but they do it to any concern. I mean, Sarah Palin, I throw out there, I know that she is now a very polarizing figure, but remember what she was when she was put out there in the beginning. She had an 80-some% approval rating, the most popular governor in the nation. She was incredibly successful. She pushed through tax cuts. She pushed through cuts in government spending when there was a surplus. She was an amazingly successful woman, but I know she contributed to her own demise, but she didn't have to. And frankly, Republican men and some Republican women ran for the hinterlands as soon as they started attacking her. Same thing happens with Michelle Bachmann. I'm so disappointed that more conservative Republican men don't stand up for her. She was a major contender for the President of the United States. She's a brilliant woman, and we allowed her to be mocked as an idiot, as a complete fool. Anybody who's talked to Michelle Bachmann knows she is not a fool. She is a brilliant woman. Compassionate, lovely, articulate. But we abandon these women to the attacks that come not only from the left, but from our side as well. So that's what we need to stick to our fight, be willing to duke it out. We need to defend the women who are willing to put themselves out there and run for office, because they are attacked more viciously than the men, because they are the threat. Women in leadership positions, it doesn't even matter what, you will be attacked. But you need to realize we need you out there. I'm looking at our young women over here who are leaders, and people will try to drive them out of the arena in very short order. That's why you've got to be gutsy and courageous and wear it as a badge of honor, because they see you as a threat. Keep it up. You need to continue to be a threat. And the other thing that we need to do as Republicans, and this has taken me a long time to come to this conclusion, because I am all about voting for the person's sake. We need to champion our Republican women. We need to put them out there in front, on the front lines. I would never support, by the way, a Republican woman just because she's a woman. I don't buy into that at all. I want conservatives. I want to train more. We need to recruit more credible, talented, conservative women, gentlemen. We need to do a better job of that. Because look, if we don't get this, we will lose. We have to have women out there representing us in order to reach out to women. There's just something about us where we look for people like us. When we're flipping through the channels, if we see only Mitch McConnell and John Boehner representing us, women turn the channel really fast. Look, this isn't a competition, guys. We are all in this together, but we've got to change our thinking about this. Let me give you an example. At CPAC, I don't know if any of you go to CPAC, but it's the Conservative Political Action Committee. It's an awesome, awesome conference. People come from all over the country. They have these banquets that are on C-SPAN every night. And on the dais, there are 14 or 15 seats. And every year, about 13 of them are filled with older white gentlemen. And look, I am not saying that those older white gentlemen didn't earn their place at that table. They darn well did. And then there's Phyllis Schlafly sitting here too. And she earned her place there. Trust me, she is one of my mentors, as are the older white gentlemen that are sitting up there. But as you're flipping the channels, we have to think about the women out there watching, the suburban housewives, we lost single women. We were blown away with single women. And there are plenty of incredible conservative women, single conservative women on our side, young, articulate, that they would just catch the attention and imagination of women out there. And they say, wait a minute, maybe they're not all just completely out of touch and old white men who don't identify with me. On the gun issue, the attempt to take away our right to bear arms, I think women, particularly young moms, are our best spokesmen. We have that woman from Georgia who shot the guy 5 times in her crawl space. And by the way, the man walked out with 5 bullet wounds in his body, walked out of her house. We need to have high-capacity magazines. We women need high-capacity magazines in order to defend our children. What better person to be out there defending? Why in the world would anybody possibly ever need a high-capacity magazine? Look at my arm, okay? I shake when I'm scared, and I cannot hold a gun very still because I'm weak. You know, I don't lift weights. I need a high capacity. Women need to be out there representing us on a multitude of issues, particularly the right to bear arms. So I am not saying, let's get rid of the men. I'm not saying that at all. But I am saying that we have so many incredibly successful, articulate women currently serving in Congress. There is one chairman of a committee who's a woman, Marsha Blackburn. She's awesome, by the way. One woman in leadership, I believe, the Congresswoman from Washington State.
Kathy McMorris Rogers.
Kathy McMorris Rogers. She's okay. Kathy McMorris Rogers. She's not, you know, like I am, hardcore on everything. But she's good. I like her. She's good on a lot of stuff. That's great, but it's almost tokenism. We need lots of women because we've got lots of women. There's no reason for us not to have them. But I think we have incredible opportunities coming up to point out the hypocrisy of the left's war on women, but also the incredibly damaging impact of Obama's attempt to divide us according to sex, gender, economic status, immigration status, whatever it is. We have the opportunity to bring Americans together, to show them that ideas genuinely matter, and we will not give up the battle for ideas. The Democrats have already given it up. They know they can't win. They cannot argue with us on ideas because we win every single time. So they have completely abandoned the field of ideas and ideology. The problem is their way is winning right now, and we have to take it back, and I know we can do it together. Thank you all so much.
You're going to take some Q&A
Yes,
from the
definitely.
audience
I
here?
would love to. Yes, sir.
Okay.
Why don't the Republicans point out more often that half of the children aborted every year are future females? Or would it be?
Yeah, or African Americans. I don't know. I'm not sure that argument. The left doesn't think that they're human beings. They don't care if they're women or girls. They don't care if they're black, they're white. They think, I mean, here in New York, your bizarre governor, yesterday or today did you hear him banging on the lectern saying, it's a woman's body, it's a woman's body? It was very bizarre. It was sick, really. Talking about allowing abortion at any point, late term, but really at any point for
And non-doctors.
any non-doctors for any reason whatsoever, any healthcare provider, I don't even know if it has to be a healthcare provider, nurse practitioners, anybody pretty much can perform these abortions. It's disgusting and despicable. I don't know how we win, except I think as they approve abortion at any point during the, we need to point out the Born Alive Infant Protection Act that Obama walked out on again, and to think that he wouldn't want to save a baby, a live baby, just to point out the idiocy of that. I was on O'Reilly tonight, right now probably, with Kirsten Powers, and we were talking about that, and Kirsten, who wobbles our way occasionally, she said it's despicable, and it is a sign that we're degenerating as a society. So I think that probably gives us an opening. Look, 50% of Americans still think abortion is wrong, and we need to focus on young people. and convincing young people that we're right on this. We need to focus on young people with everything, by the way, because right now equal numbers of young people prefer socialism to capitalism, and that's because of our educational system. Yes, sir.
I can't disagree with anything you said about bringing women to the forefront, but I think we need to go a step further. As a Tea Partier for the last 4 years, talking to thousands of people on the street, I mean, with the dumbing down of our population and, you know, the Jersey shoring of that mindset, the left comes at it from a gut level,
They do.
you know, and we think that, well, we've got the better ideas, so let's talk facts, let's talk ideas, and their eyes glaze over.
Right.
We need to bring it down to a gut level.
Let's
Our
do it
ideas
as
are better, but we need...
mundane a way as possible. I'm sorry to pick on Mitch McConnell, but I saw him giving a response to Obama. I can't remember what it was, but at one of his press conferences or something. I literally wanted to poke my eyeballs out. I could not believe how dull and unimpassioned. So I agree with you. I think of Ronald Reagan. And he was not void of ideas, but he brought it down. I was 10 at the time. I hung on every word the man said. So as a 10-year-old, it's probably a good gauge for what our population is behaving like right now. So if we can talk like Ronald Reagan, but you know, Ronald Reagan, he worked hard to be able to deliver those messages in such a compelling manner. And we need somebody who is that instinctive conservative, but has the ability to convey those ideas. I'd love to hear your thoughts on who that person is. I think we do have some great options out there, people, and it's not going to be one savior. You're right that we have our one savior, but we have to be better about articulating the message on a level people will understand with passion. Yes, sir.
Yeah, I hate to be the party pooper, but I'd like to
Go
bring
ahead.
up Aiken, and maybe what is your opinion? I think it's just awful the way Palin and Rove undermined Aikman. It was a Missouri primary, he's the winner. Okay, and they undermined the people in Missouri just asking him to step down.
Yeah.
I mean, I expect that from the loony left. That was Rove and Palin.
Yeah, okay.
And other forces. Rove went as far as to wanting to put a hit on him.
Okay.
Because
Okay.
well, I'm not, this is, you know, and so he was even more extreme.
Okay, when you say the left, you would expect that from the loony left. You'd expect it from the loony left towards our guys, not towards their guys. They would never ask one of their guys who said something stupid like
Correct.
this guy did. They would never even raise their eyebrows. They would never, I get what you're saying, let me answer
Yes.
you. I completely disagree with you on this point. Look, Karl Rove and I are not like this. I have been attacking what he's talking about doing, which is totally undermining the voters' choices in the future. I completely agree. However, when somebody like Todd Aiken, and it's such an important year, I think it was the biggest year in our nation's history up until this point. I hope we have another bite at the apple, because this was huge, not to depress everybody, but it was huge. The changes that are going to take place over the next 4 years, I don't know if we're going to be able to bring it. I'm not going to give up. Let's not give up, but it's going to be really hard. And when somebody like Todd Aiken comes out and makes such an elementary mistake, such a basic mistake that just handed Democrats almost the election, handed them women voters, they were not brilliant women voters, that's for sure, but that helped. It wasn't just the Todd Aiken. And look, I don't know what would have happened if your approach were undertaken. If everybody had rallied around him and said,
You should have. They had guts.
listen, I'm saying that I don't know because we didn't. But what would have happened if they'd all said, look, we're human beings, we make a mistake, that was a dumb thing to say. But for one thing, Aiken was not backing down. He did not immediately come out. He did say, I'm sorry if I offended anybody, but then he said, but you know, I think it makes really a lot of sense. It didn't make a lot of sense. It was a crazy thing to say, and he handed the issue. And it wasn't about Todd Aiken. This was about the future of the United States of America. And it was fine for citizens like Sarah Palin and Karl Rove to say, get out. Let's have somebody in there who can truly represent all the people of the state. But they didn't do that. So, you know what? I don't know. And I do respect your position, but I think it was...
National figures imposing the will on the people in Missouri.
No, it wasn't, because they
It was a
didn't get him
national
out.
election. They were trying to
They
fight.
didn't get him
Tried to impose
out.
it.
Yeah, they did. They tried to impose, yes, absolutely they did. But they didn't get him out, and we suffered the consequences. Yes,
Yeah,
sir.
Karl Rove went after that woman who was going in the primary against
Yeah.
the Republican senator in Maryland and Delaware. I can't remember the name.
Christine O'Donnell.
That's the one. Maryland. Now,
Yeah, you know
why
what?
did Rove come down against her? I mean,
I agree.
she was good.
Yeah. You know what, I totally agree. I don't agree on the
witch
Aiken
kind.
one, but I do agree on the Christine O'Donnell one, because you know what, if Rove had gotten involved in that race, Christine O'Donnell was not some newbie to the scene. She had gone on Bill Maher show, Colbert, she had,
Quite a history for her.
she did, and she was willing to go up against anybody. If Karl Rove had gotten involved in that campaign, we never would have seen that "I am not a witch" ad. That was such a,
Rove. I mean, maybe
Right.
you could look at Rove.
I'm sorry?
Maybe you could examine Rove a little more closely.
I am happy to examine Rove a little bit more closely, and I think he's a huge problem in many areas. And that was one of them. I think that he undermined Christine O'Donnell, and I think the party often undermines our candidates. I'm not talking about bailing on candidates when they're nominated, because the National Republican Senatorial Committee doesn't like them. Too daggone bad, you get behind our Republican candidates. But when somebody screws up in a way that I think was pretty huge, then I think it's a little bit different ballgame. Christine O'Donnell had not screwed up. She was the chosen candidate, and I frankly thought she had a great shot. I think I gave her money. I thought she was great. Yes, ma'am. I'm gonna-
Regarding the polling numbers, now, even if you take into account single women, Romney won white women, but he was devastated when it came to minority women.
Yes.
Now, do you think that was indicative of the Republican Party's problem with minorities, or do you think it was more specific towards women?
I think it was both. Yeah, Obama won 96% of African American women, 70-some% of Hispanic women, and I think 69% of other, non-white but non those categories. So yeah, we were absolutely trumped. The only white women and married women. We won married women. So I think a lot of it has to do with young women, single women. I think a lot of it has to do with what goes on college campuses and how they come out indoctrinated, and we do a lousy job of reaching out to them there. We can do a much better job of reaching them there. But yes, we have to do better on reaching out to Hispanics. I'm not saying, I've never said, that we need to abandon our philosophy and abandon our position. We need to do a better job of articulating what our position is. We need to courageously advocate what our position is instead of running away from it and constantly being in defense. Let's get out there and boldly champion our ideas, because they are the winning ideas. What Romney did was he hid and he ran. Every time a missile came his way, he turned the other direction and went running for the hinterlands. He basically said, I'm not going to make a dent with Hispanics, and I'm not going to make a dent with African Americans, so he didn't even try. And that's all that we needed, for him to try a little bit, and we might have actually had some success. Yes, sir.
Yeah, I'm curious what your opinion would be about why did the conservatives abandon the eligibility issue for Obama? Why has that not been?
I actually sued.
Done.
Yeah, because that issue was abandoned by
Everybody.
everyone, even conservative media, some extremely high-profile. Ann Coulter so disappointed me over the past couple of cycles. She really has.
mainstream.
Because she.
Why does she like Christie?
Don't even get me started on Chris Christie. I think it became a marginalized issue, and candidates thought that they would be marginalized if they went after it. Frankly, I think there was plenty to go after other than that, but we didn't even do that. The economy, for goodness sake, but we didn't even effectively go after the economy. We just assumed we've got to change our message and explain to people why increased freedom is actually a good thing. The Republican Party is not just about a couple extra bucks in your pocket through tax cuts, although that's a really good thing. But that's not what it's about. It's about having the liberty and the freedom to make these decisions for your own life. That's something young people will love. They think, a couple extra bucks, no big deal. Of course, everybody should be the same. But the idea of freedom and liberty and self-determination, it's got to still have a ring to it. There's a lady way back there in the back.
Thank you. I have a question. Well, comment and a question. I have to go with the women. Sorry, guys, you're all out. But you know what?
It's not that.
No, I am gonna say it like that, because that's what I think. The guys, I mean, the women are bringing up some very valid points. And the reason why I say that is, you know, I do a lot with the minority organizations and groups and so forth. And, you know, even the day that President Obama had his public inaugural, you know, I was at a Martin Luther King event, and everybody's cheering and going on, and I was asking them, you know, why are you so behind him? And everybody was telling me because he's black. And I'm looking around, this is a white room. And my question is, when we're looking at how we're reaching out to the women, you know, after he was voted in, a lot of women said, I'm happy someone's in office who cares about my lady parts. Well, if anybody follows me on Facebook knows I'm very opinionated. And, you know, I mean, I'll rip out your jugular and sleep just fine at night when I'm done.
Well, you need to
And I came out and said, how's your lady parts? And I started posting everything from the IRS and things about Obamacare. And I said, I challenge anybody to prove me wrong.
Right.
Silence. Hardly anybody responds on my Facebook page now. So my question to you is, but I know they read it because I said for Lent I would put no political post. Well, I wrote that. And somebody said, you said for Lent you wouldn't put anything. So I was like, all right, you called me out. But what do you think about that? Because in reaching out to women, it's all women. Like Star Jones, she's a spokesman for NHGW, which I used to belong to. Because of her, I do not anymore. She came out and said, as a black woman, I care about my health and I support President Obama. And I talked to the founders and owners of NHGW about it, and they said, well, we're actually all wrong. And I'm thinking to myself, you guys are a bunch of spineless men. What is wrong with you?
So, what's your
what do you
question?
think what we should do with women and trying to get us out there? Because I think some of us are not standing up and saying what we need to say. You know, having that backbone to come out and fight. We raise kids for crying out loud.
It's an excellent point. How do we get women to be involved? And, you know, and I'm not writing you guys off, by the way. I look at some people like...
I like men too. I mean, don't get me wrong.
No, I look at, well, yeah, I know. But I look at Marco Rubio. I think he has incredible capacity to communicate big ideas, great thoughts, not dumbing them down, but communicate them in a way that is compelling, that is easily understood, and in a way that resonates with men and women. I think he is phenomenal. I think there are a lot of men like that.
What about the women?
Paul Ryan is too much of a wonk. I don't think he's ever going to resonate. I love him, but and he's had some bad votes too. But what about the women? You know what? When I started, I'll make this brief. But when I started as chairman of the Republican Party in Virginia, I was shocked at how women thought that was never going to happen in our state. I never even thought it wouldn't happen. But I had women coming up to me at committee meetings in tears, saying, I never thought I'd see the day in Virginia when a woman was elected chairman of this party. I was shocked. I never thought there wouldn't be a day. And so I realized something's going on in the state that's keeping women back. And I don't get it, because I never felt held back. In fact, I was recruited by men to come and run because we needed a young woman who had, you know, a fresh face come to Richmond and run things when it was in turmoil. But I realized there was a problem, so I started a women's leadership training program. And it was a hard step for me to take because I believe in training programs for everybody. But there was something going on. And at the first meeting of this group of women, it was a competitive process. These were talented, skilled, successful women. 25 of them were in a room. The first class, I said, how many of you would consider running for office one day? One little hand. Just one, went up very tentatively. I said, what is the deal? What's the problem? And uniformly was, I prefer a supportive role. I'm not confident in my ability to raise money. I don't like giving a speech. Okay, so for 8 months, we trained this group of 25 talented women. The last class, I said, how many of you would consider running for office? Every hand shot up boldly, confidently. You bet I would. And of those, now we're graduating 25 women every year, and many of them are running for office. I don't know what it is, but they need a little extra encouragement to get out there and take on the challenge. Part of it is they know they're going to be attacked viciously, and they need the confidence that comes with the training. There's a lot involved with women. I mean, we manage our families, we take care of our parents, we earn a living, we just are there's a lot going on in our lives. So I think training them, the men in our movement and in our party have to back them up. When they're attacked, don't go running the other way. Don't be resentful of women women in leadership roles. Embrace it. They will help Republicans stay as a contender. If we don't have women in leadership roles, pack it up and go home. We're always going to be in the minority because we're going to lose women voters. We have to have some representation, a bold representation from women, and men have got to embrace that. They've got to embrace things like women's leadership training programs. They're not for liberal women. Don't worry. I didn't want liberal women running for office. I want to train the good conservatives and get them out there to win office. So we just have to do a better job of training them and then backing them up and supporting them financially and in every other capacity. Yes?
Frank.
A month from now, we're going to have a debate about the role of libertarianism versus traditional conservatism in the conservative movement moving forward.
A month from now? Oh, here, right, great, awesome.
Now, I've noticed in the past 2 election cycles, we've done very well in the South, which we usually do, but we've pretty much become lethargic to non-existent in the Northeast and in the Pacific West. What can we do, and should we embrace a more libertarian philosophy in terms of our conservatism moving forward to get more young people
Oh, that's
involved?
my phone. I'm so embarrassing. I'm so sorry. I thought I turned it all the way down. It's probably my kids. It is.
I'll get the money.
I'm so sorry. That was
No.
very rude. I think that there is a lot about libertarianism that resonates with most conservatives. In fact, when I hear Ron Paul speak, I get fired up over 85% of what comes out of his mouth. I'm like, finally, somebody's saying what I really think about the proper role of government, limiting it, but then he starts talking about foreign policy. I'm like, it breaks my heart when he shifts gears. And some of the things that he says are nuts. What was it that he said just a couple weeks ago?
About the sniper.
Yeah,
It's just
yeah,
crazy.
bad
But his
stuff.
son seems to be more of a
Yeah.
moderate
Yeah, I just wonder if
libertarian.
his son is sort of toning down some of his. But I don't know. I love Rand Paul. I think he's great if he really is what he says he is. So I think embracing the tenets of libertarianism that are conservatism that we've abandoned through our very establishment candidates. Frankly, Karl Rove running our party, it's a problem. He's not a conservative. He didn't come up from the Reagan branch of the party. He was a George Bush supporter, actually, and not a Reagan supporter. I think Karl Rove is a genius when it comes to understanding every single county in the nation. And strategy is really good at that. But messaging and ideology, not so good. I don't embrace any of that. But if we embrace the core tenets of conservatism, again, as Reagan unabashedly did, no time for pale pastels. It's bold championing of ideas. Don't dumb them down, but champion what we really believe in. Stop with the businessmen or the establishment candidates that we think somehow will be less offensive to Democrats. Democrats are never going to vote for our people. The media will never give our people a pass. We actually thought the media was going to give John McCain a pass. I mean, who thought that? It was amazing stuff. So we have got to embrace the true conservatives because they are the ones that in the Northeast and the Pacific Coast, they are going to resonate and we're going to see a genuine revival. And stop with this namby-pamby stuff.
We'll just have our resident libertarian ask.
Okay.
The core principle that was betrayed with that thing that women should not carry guns on campus was that women should be helpless, and it's not just women. Everybody should be helpless because the experts, the police,
Question, Chris.
who have 5 times the error rate.
You already gave a speech.
The point is that the experts are worse at protecting people than the civilians are. They have 5 times the error rate of an armed civilian. So the problem is that guys like Romney signed a gun ban. Romney is against everything in terms of civil rights.
He's done, so let's not talk
But he's the type of guy they keep putting up there. How do we stop guys like our Republican committees in this county and our next county from destroying the Republican Party?
Yes, we stop sitting back and we get involved at the local level, then the state level, and then the national level. People who say, I can't do anything, it's too big of a problem. Bull. we are in America. We are still in America, okay? These 4 years have not elapsed. We can absolutely make an impact. And on the gun thing, I completely agree with you. And my point is that women and men would have a healthy skepticism of the ability of government to be omnipresent, particularly when they're in danger. Obama seems to want us to believe that the government can protect us at all times, in all places. We know that's not true, and that's never going to happen, and that's what we need to be talking about.
And who protects us from the government?
Right, well, okay, when you start talking about that, you sound like a crazy lunatic, but I do it because one of the reasons the Founding Fathers gave us the right to bear arms is to have the government in a little bit of a...
Not one of the reasons,
have a little bit of fear, right, to have a little bit of fear of the populace. And as well they should. And,
Okay. Let's hear it for Kate.